The Galactic Council had already decided how the war would end. For centuries, the Zarathi Dominion never lost a campaign. When their fleets appeared in a system, surrender always followed. Civilizations that resisted disappeared. Those that cooperated survived. So when a small blue planet called Earth joined the Council records, no one worried. The humans were divided into nations. They argued with each other. Their ships were slow compared to modern standards. Their weapons looked crude. The official report labeled them developing species, low threat. Weeks later, Zarathi ships entered human space. Council observers prepared to record the surrender message. Some diplomats did not even attend the viewing. The outcome was obvious. But the message never came. Hours passed, then an entire day. On the second day, the Zarathi transmitted a combat log to their command. It was short. 12 destroyers missing. No confirmed enemy fleet. The Council assumed a sensor malfunction. Advanced warships did not simply disappear. Then a second report arrived. More ships gone. No wreckage. No survivors. For the first time in living memory, the Zarathi asked a question. Where are the humans?
The Zarathi Dominion did not panic. They did not feel fear the way most species did. Their society was built on order and certainty. Every battle in their history followed clear logic. Stronger force meets weaker force. Weaker force retreats or is removed. So when 12 destroyers vanished, their commanders assumed equipment failure. The fleet continued its advance toward the third planet of the system, Earth. Long-range sensors scanned empty space ahead. No defending fleet formed a defensive line. No minefields appeared. No automated stations fired warning shots. Everything looked abandoned. That was strange. Even primitive civilizations usually tried something, a desperate attack, a surrender broadcast, at minimum communications filled with panic. Human space was quiet. The Zarathi sent forward 3 scout cruisers to map approach routes toward the inner planets. They traveled in a triangular formation, shields raised, weapons ready. The cruisers passed the outer asteroid belt. Nothing. They crossed the orbit of a frozen gas giant. Nothing. Then, without warning, the lead cruiser disappeared from sensors. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone. The other 2 ships halted instantly. Their systems searched for debris, radiation, energy spikes, anything that would explain the loss. There was none. Seconds later, the second cruiser vanished. The third ship attempted to retreat. It transmitted a continuous signal back to the fleet. For 9 seconds, the transmission repeated the same message. Contact, possible, range, 0, unable to track. The signal cut. No explosion, no wreckage. Silence returned to space. The combat log reached Dominion Command within minutes. The Fleet Intelligence Corps processed the data. It found no weapon signature, no projectile paths, no energy discharge. The computer could not classify the event as an attack, so the system labeled it an accident. The fleet resumed advance. 2 hours later, another report arrived, this one from a rear patrol group. 4 escort vessels had disappeared while maintaining standard formation spacing. The ships beside them recorded empty space where allies had been moments before. Their captains scanned every direction. They detected nothing within weapon range. The Dominion fleet slowed. This time, the commanders did not continue immediately. They changed formation to defensive configuration, overlapping shield coverage, shared targeting data, and synchronized sensor sweeps. It was a formation designed to face unknown enemies. For the first time, the Zarathi considered the possibility of resistance. Back in the Galactic Council observation chambers, analysts gathered. More species attended the live feed now. The data made no sense. Ships were not being destroyed. They were simply leaving reality. One scientist suggested advanced cloaking. Another proposed hidden wormholes. A third claimed the humans had discovered unknown physics. No one truly believed the last suggestion. Humans were too new, too divided, too primitive. Yet the losses continued. The Dominion launched thousands of microprobes. They filled the surrounding space in every direction, scanning for hidden objects. For nearly an hour, no probe detected anything unusual. Then the probes began to vanish. Not in groups, one at a time, random positions. Each disappearance occurred within a distance so small it was nearly touching range. Whatever removed them existed extremely close before detection, closer than safe engagement distance, closer than any military doctrine allowed an enemy to approach. The Dominion commanders changed strategy. Instead of advancing toward Earth, they ordered a controlled retreat toward open space where maneuvering room was greater. The fleet turned. And that was when the first visual recording was captured. For less than half a second, a sensor drone registered an object beside a battleship. The image was blurry, rough, angular, small compared to Dominion vessels. It vanished before weapons could lock. The battleship disappeared 3 seconds later. The image was transmitted across the fleet, across the Council, across every watching civilization. The analysts enhanced the frame repeatedly. It showed a human ship, close enough to touch the hull. No shields active, no visible heavy weapons, just structure, engines, and something mounted along its sides. The size confused everyone. It was too small to challenge a war fleet, yet it was inside defensive range without detection. The Dominion attempted wide-area weapon sweeps, continuous fire across empty space to hit hidden attackers. The tactic worked against stealth fleets in the past. It failed. More ships vanished during the firing. The attackers were not staying in one place. They appeared, acted, and left faster than targeting systems could respond. The council chambers grew quiet. For the first time, observers realized something important. Humans were not fighting for territory. They were not forming battle lines. They were hunting. Hours passed. The Dominion fleet finally halted its retreat and grouped hull to hull, each ship almost touching another, shields overlapping in a sphere of protection. No ship moved alone. No formation gaps remained. Losses stopped. For 17 minutes, nothing happened. The commanders began preparing a cautious advance again. Then the center of the formation transmitted an alert. Internal impact detected. Not external, internal. Moments later, a carrier vanished from the middle of the fleet. There had been no outside approach, no incoming contact. Something had reached the center of the safest formation ever designed. The Dominion sent a priority transmission to the Council. Not a victory report, not a demand for surrender relay. A question. Request classification of human combat doctrine. The Council had no answer, because for the first time in galactic history, no one understood how humans were fighting.
The Dominion decided the problem was distance. Whatever the humans were doing depended on getting close, so the Zarathi commanders created a new strategy. They would remove close range entirely. The fleet expanded outward into layered spheres. Outer picket ships watched every direction. Behind them came the heavy destroyers. At the center remained the command carriers. Every weapon was set to fire automatically at anything entering engagement distance. Nothing could approach unseen again. For the first time since entering human space, the Dominion advanced with caution. Minutes passed. Then sensors detected objects ahead. Not disappearing ships, not sudden losses, actual contacts. Hundreds of small human vessels appeared directly in front of the fleet. They were not hiding, they did not flee,
They moved slowly toward the Dominion formation. Observers in the council chambers felt relief. Finally, a normal battle. The Dominion prepared firing solutions. Target locks confirmed. Weapons charged. The order was given. The fleet opened fire. Space filled with light. Energy beams crossed millions of miles instantly. Missiles streaked forward in waves. Every recorded model predicted the same result: total destruction of the human ships. But the humans did not scatter. They did not retreat. They flew straight into the firing zone, and most survived. The council analysts replayed the footage repeatedly. Human ships rolled and changed direction constantly, not randomly, but not predictably either. They did not maintain formation. Each vessel moved differently. Targeting computers struggled to calculate future positions. Weapons passed through empty space where ships should have been. Missiles missed by meters. A Dominion officer described it simply: they refused to fly correctly. Several human ships were destroyed. Many were damaged, but they kept moving forward. Not toward the center, toward specific ships. One destroyer suddenly received dozens of close-range sensor pings, human ships passing within visual distance. The destroyer rotated weapons to fire. At that moment, long-range impacts struck its engines from behind. The destroyer broke apart. No attacker existed behind it. Seconds later, 3 more ships suffered identical hits. The Dominion began tracking projectile origins. They traced trajectories backward. The weapons came from beyond sensor range, millions of miles away, but the accuracy was impossible unless targeting data came from nearby. The human ships near the fleet were not attackers. They were spotters, moving targeting beacons. They fed real-time coordinates to distant artillery ships. Every close pass meant a precise strike moments later. The Dominion attempted to eliminate the nearby ships first, but targeting them required predicting movement, and human movement was chaotic. Ships turned engines on and off irregularly. They accelerated in short bursts. They used debris and even friendly ships as cover. No central formation existed, no unified pattern. Every pilot acted independently, yet somehow they cooperated perfectly. Another observation emerged. Human ships rotated crews frequently. Fatigued pilots were replaced mid-battle. Their reaction time never slowed. Dominion crews did not understand. Combat operations were expected to follow planned maneuvers. Humans adapted every second. They changed plans faster than command signals could be issued. It looked disorganized, but results proved otherwise. The Dominion attempted a counter-tactic. They deliberately broke their own formation and scattered, hoping to remove targeting solutions. It worked for exactly 40 seconds. Then human ships changed behavior. Instead of marking individual targets, they formed temporary groups. Each group focused on one isolated Dominion vessel. Not the nearest, not the weakest, the most important. Communications ships, sensor relays, coordination nodes. The fleet began losing awareness. Ships no longer shared targeting data. Each vessel fought alone. Dominion doctrine depended on perfect unity. Humans were removing unity. Council observers began understanding the difference. The Dominion fought like a machine. Humans fought like hunters. A machine fails when parts disconnect. A hunter continues even alone. More human ships arrived from distant positions. They did not come as reinforcements in lines. They appeared in small numbers from every direction at different times. The Dominion could not determine total enemy strength. There was never a full human fleet to destroy, only constant pressure, constant confusion, constant loss. A Dominion strategist finally stated the conclusion: these are not fleet engagements. We are being surrounded by behavior. No translation software could interpret the sentence correctly, but its meaning was clear.
The humans were not winning through power, they were winning through decision speed. Each pilot chose actions locally, faster than Dominion Command could calculate globally. By the time orders were given, the situation had already changed. The Dominion attempted full retreat, but retreat required coordinated movement. Human ships intensified attacks during maneuvering. Engines failed across multiple vessels simultaneously. The formation drifted apart. For the first time in centuries, the Zarathi fleet lost structural order. The council chambers fell silent. No one spoke. No one recorded predictions. They simply watched, because they now understood something unsettling. Humanity did not need superior weapons. They only needed uncertainty. And in uncertainty, they were comfortable. Very comfortable.
The battles slowed. Not because the fighting stopped, but because the Dominion stopped advancing. For the first time in their recorded history, the Zarathi fleet held position outside a target system. They were waiting, studying. Every transmission, every sensor recording, every fragment of combat data was sent to the Dominion High Logic Core. The machine intelligence had directed their wars for centuries. It predicted outcomes before the first shot was fired. Now it produced a message no one had seen before. Prediction failure, insufficient behavioral model. The Dominion did not understand the enemy, so they requested information from the Galactic Council. The Council hesitated, not because they refused to help, because they had very little to give. Humanity had only been a member species for a short time. They traded, communicated, and argued often, but they rarely explained themselves. Their official diplomacy described them as cooperative. Their history records described them as violent. Neither description seemed complete, so the Council opened the archives. Human history was long, longer than many expected for a species without faster-than-light travel until recently. Before they reached space, humans had already fought thousands of wars, not against invading species, against each other. Planet-wide conflicts, city conflicts, ideological conflicts, resource conflicts. The analysts expected to find patterns. Instead, they found constant change. Every war forced humans to invent new methods because old ones stopped working. Whenever a defense became reliable, someone discovered a way around it. Whenever a weapon became dominant, someone learned how to survive it. Humans did not seek perfect strategy. They expected strategy to fail. The Dominion studied one particular concept translated from human languages: improvisation. No equivalent term existed in Zarathi logic structures. All Dominion actions followed approved solutions. Humans created solutions during the problem. They trained individuals to decide without permission. They even rewarded disobedience if it worked. To the Dominion, this sounded like chaos. To humans, it was normal. Another concept appeared repeatedly: redundancy. Human vehicles, ships, and systems were intentionally inefficient. Multiple controls operated the same function. Multiple officers shared authority. Multiple plans existed for the same objective. Dominion engineers initially classified it as poor design. Then they understood. If a perfect system fails once, it collapses. If a messy system fails, something else continues. Human technology was built to continue working while damaged. Human organizations were built to continue working while confused. Human command was built to continue working while cut off. The High Logic Core updated its assessment. Humans do not require certainty to operate. This statement worried the Dominion, because their entire civilization required certainty. Council sociologists continued reviewing records. They noticed something deeper. Human cooperation did not depend on similarity.
Their nations differed in culture, belief, language, and values. They argued constantly, yet when facing outside threats, cooperation increased rapidly. Conflict trained them, not weakened them. They were comfortable disagreeing while working together. No galactic species behaved this way. Most civilizations achieved unity first, then progress. Humans progressed while divided. Military analysts replayed battle footage again. Now the movements looked different, not random. Human pilots were not trying to survive perfectly. They were trying to create problems faster than enemies could solve them. Every maneuver forced a decision. Every decision consumed time. Every delay created opportunity. The Dominion fought to maintain order. Humans fought to overload order. The Council finally understood why the Dominion sensors often detected human ships only at close range. The humans were not hiding well. They were hiding unpredictably. They appeared where they were not expected, rather than where they could not be seen. Their stealth came from behavior, not technology. A final report reached both the Council and the Dominion simultaneously. It analyzed communication speed. Dominion ships required confirmation before major actions. Human ships required intention. Dominion fleets waited for agreement. Human fleets trusted initiative. In fast conflict, agreement was slower than action, so humans always acted first. The high logic core generated a revised prediction. Not defeat, not victory, prolonged, uncontrollable conflict. The Dominion had never fought a war it could not mathematically end. For the first time, victory conditions could not be calculated. The council chambers were silent for a long time. An elder diplomat finally spoke. We believed humans were aggressive because they were primitive. Another replied softly, they are dangerous because they are adaptable. The Dominion transmitted a strategic update to its fleet. Avoid close engagement, preserve command structure, prepare total assault on Earth to force decisive outcome. They would end uncertainty with overwhelming force. Humanity did not know this yet, but across their networks, fleets were already repositioning. Not into a single defensive line, into thousands of small movements, preparing not for survival, preparing for disruption. The next battle would decide more than territory. It would decide whether order or adaptation ruled the galaxy.
The Zarathi Dominion ended its hesitation. Uncertainty had no value to them. A conflict that could not be predicted had to be removed completely. So they assembled a war formation larger than any fleet used in centuries. Not an invasion group, an extinction group. Thousands of warships gathered at the edge of human space. Carriers, destroyers, artillery platforms, command vessels, every class positioned with mathematical precision. This time, they would not chase human ships. They would strike Earth directly. The logic was simple. Remove the center of coordination, end resistance instantly. The fleet entered the solar system together. Unlike before, they did not spread out. They moved as a single wall. Layered shields overlapped into a continuous barrier. Weapons covered every approach direction. Nothing would reach them. Nothing would escape them. The blue planet appeared ahead. Earth. Council observers across the galaxy watched the live feed. Many believed the outcome was inevitable. Even some human allies prepared evacuation offers. But Earth sent no surrender message. Instead, human broadcasts filled open channels. Not panic, traffic. Thousands of short transmissions, constantly changing frequencies. The Dominion ignored them. They focused on the objective. Human ships appeared. Not in one fleet, everywhere. Small groups emerged from behind moons, debris, and empty space. Some accelerated directly at the Dominion formation, others moved away. None held formation long. The Dominion did not pursue, they continued forward. Any ship that approached weapons range was destroyed instantly. The humans lost many vessels, yet more kept arriving. Then something strange happened. Human ships began flying toward specific Dominion vessels, not attacking, just passing close and leaving. No weapons fired, no collisions attempted. They simply crossed the fleet's surface like insects around a moving animal. The Dominion ignored them. They were irrelevant. Minutes later, a destroyer on the outer edge lost communication. No damage detected, systems active, but it stopped responding to fleet signals. Then another ship, then 3 more. The vessels were functioning, but disconnected. The Dominion attempted to restore links. Their network traffic suddenly multiplied. Too many routing paths, too many connection requests. Communication delay increased. For the first time, commands required seconds to synchronize. Inside the council chambers, analysts realized what was happening. The humans were not attacking the ships, they were attacking coordination. Their small craft carried signal transmitters. Every close pass injected false routing instructions into the Dominion's shared network. Not hacking, overloading. The Dominion communication system depended on perfect clarity. Humans filled it with noise. The fleet tried switching to isolated command mode, but that required reconfiguration time. During that time, human long-range weapons fired. From deep space, far beyond visual range, guided by the small ships moving near targets. Engines failed across the formation. Shield timing fell out of synchronization. Small errors multiplied. The wall of ships became a cluster. Then the second phase began. Human stealth vessels accelerated toward the center of the Dominion formation. They ignored frontline warships completely. Defense weapons destroyed many, but enough passed through gaps created by delayed coordination. They did not target weapons, they targeted command ships. The first command carrier lost navigation. It drifted sideways into a destroyer. Both vessels collided. In the confusion, automated weapons fired incorrectly. Ships near the impact believed they were under attack and returned fire. The perfect formation collapsed. Dominion officers attempted regrouping, but regrouping required synchronized instruction. Signals were delayed. Orders arrived out of sequence. Ships maneuvered into each other's firing paths. Human long-range strikes increased. Now the fleet had shape, and that shape was weakness. Earth's defense platforms activated. They had waited until the fleet lost alignment. Massive kinetic projectiles launched from lunar orbit. They were slow, easy to intercept in normal conditions, but the Dominion was no longer coordinated. Interception timing failed. Multiple ships were struck. The High Logic Core attempted to calculate recovery. It could not produce a stable solution. Every prediction changed before completion. The humans were altering the battlefield faster than computation allowed. Then the final event occurred. A small human craft reached the primary command vessel. Not a large warship, not heavily armed. It attached to the hull briefly. Moments later, the Dominion Central Coordination Channel shut down. No explosion, no destruction, just silence. The entire fleet lost unified command. Individual Zarathi captains continued fighting, but alone they followed standard doctrine, and standard doctrine was predictable. Human forces adapted immediately. Within minutes, the battle turned into isolated engagements. The Zarathi ships were superior individually, but they were no longer a fleet. 19 minutes after entering Earth orbit, the Dominion began retreat procedures. Not an organized withdrawal, independent ships escaping combat zones. Human forces did not pursue far. They disabled engines and weapons, ensuring the fleet could not regroup quickly. The solar system remained under human control. Across the galaxy, observers stared at the final combat report. The strongest military power had not been destroyed.
It had been disassembled, not by superior firepower, by removing its ability to function as one mind. Humanity had not defeated the Dominion ships, they had defeated the Dominion's certainty.
The battle was over, but no one in the galaxy celebrated. The final recording spread across every network, military, civilian, academic. Species that had feared the Zarathi Dominion for centuries watched the same conclusion again and again. The Dominion fleet still existed. Thousands of ships survived, yet it had retreated. Not because it was destroyed, because it could no longer function as a single force. That had never happened before. For 3 days, no one contacted Earth. Not the Dominion, not the Council, not even allied systems. They needed time to understand what they had witnessed. The combat reports were studied in detail. Every maneuver, every delay, every strange human action that once looked irrational. Now it looked intentional. Humans did not fight to overpower enemies. They fought to make enemies ineffective. The final line of the Dominion analysis reached the Council. Human combat behavior prevents stable engagement outcomes. Translated simply, there is no reliable way to fight them. This statement caused more fear than any casualty number, because the Dominion measured war mathematically, and mathematics had failed. The Galactic Council assembled in full session. Attendance was mandatory. For the first time, the chamber was silent before discussion even began. The central hologram activated. Earth appeared, larger than before, not highlighted as a danger, highlighted as a variable. Reports from observers were presented. Human fleets had stopped attacking once the Dominion withdrew beyond threat range. They did not chase fleeing ships into deep space. They did not attempt extermination. They only disabled vessels that could regroup quickly. They chose containment over revenge. This confused many species. A civilization capable of such unpredictable warfare should have been uncontrollable, yet they showed restraint. An elder council historian spoke. Throughout our history, violent species either destroy themselves or conquer endlessly. He paused. Humans have done neither. They fought constantly among themselves in the past, but they also negotiated peace repeatedly. War was not their purpose, it was a tool they understood too well. A proposal was introduced: reclassify humanity. Previously listed as developing cooperative species, the new classification required a category rarely used. After long discussion, the Council voted. Unanimous approval. Humanity, cooperative defensive power. Definition: a civilization capable of extreme military effectiveness while preferring limited objectives and controlled engagement. Additional note added to archives: direct underestimation produces catastrophic strategic error. The Council transmitted the declaration to Earth. A single human representative responded. No celebration broadcast, no threats, only acknowledgement. Understood. We prefer trade. The message confused translators for several seconds. After everything, trade? Meanwhile, the Zarathi Dominion sent its own transmission. Short, formal. They requested diplomatic contact, not surrender, recognition. They had identified humanity as a civilization that could not be conquered through force without unacceptable long-term uncertainty. To the Dominion, that meant coexistence was logical. Months passed. Trade routes reopened. Joint navigation beacons were installed near former battle zones. Human ships were now common in Council space. They behaved casually, sometimes arguing loudly on public channels, sometimes helping stranded vessels without reward. No unified behavior, just like during war. Military academies across the galaxy updated training doctrine.
They added a new principle: do not fight humans where adaptation is possible. And another beneath it: if conflict occurs, expect the situation to change faster than planning cycles. The final analysis of the battle became required study for all strategists. Its conclusion was simple: the Dominion relied on perfect plans. Humans relied on imperfect people. Perfect plans break when reality changes. Imperfect people change with reality. Years later, a council observer asked a human officer a question. Why didn't you destroy the Dominion fleet when you had the advantage? The human thought briefly: because next time we might need them. The answer was archived under cultural philosophy. From that day forward, humanity was never again labeled primitive, never again ignored. Not because they were the strongest species, but because they were the hardest to predict. In a galaxy built on certainty, humanity introduced possibility, and possibility changed everything.